Why does James Jones still have a job as the general manager for the Phoenix Suns? I don't know. I don't know what to think when I watch television and I hear everyone talking about Frank Vogel's job is on the line. Frank Vogel's the problem. Frank Vogel can't get a hold of this team and get them to win. Well, I'll tell you what. The first thing that James Jones said in his exit press conference, to start the offseason, was that Frank did a great job considering the circumstances. And let me tell you the circumstances. The roster construction of that team is full of shooters. Everybody looks at that team and sees Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker as the same player because they are all great shooters. You look at Eric Gordon, who's a 17-year veteran, shooter. You look at Royce O'Neal, who they got in the trade deadline. He's a shooter. You look at Grayson Allen, who they acquired in a draft or acquired in a trade for DeAndre Ayton. He did lead the league in three-point percentage, but nevertheless, he is a shooter. And when you look at how they get swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves, it didn't surprise me one bit. Because if you watch this team this year, and you watched how they were built, and you watch how they played, even from game one of the first game of the season against the San Antonio Spurs, they couldn't even get the ball up the court. And that tells you that they have no point guard because you're having Devin Booker and Bradley Beal play a position they've never played before. And if there's one thing that you need in the NBA, that is a leader. Devin Booker is not a leader. I wish he was, but he is not. Frank Vogel can only do so much to tell the team, you need to be in these spots, you need to set the screens, you need to rebound the ball. But when you have players that their main skill set is shooting, then I don't know what you can expect. I don't know how you can expect them to do anything better. And that's the definition of insanity. He's been with the team since 2017. All he's done is put together pits that are all shooters, and he drafts players like Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, who are shooters, and then turn into Kevin Durant. That was his most notable move. But you look at the other moves. Right after the Suns lost in the NBA Finals, they lost because of rebounding. And Devin Booker even clearly states it. It's about the details. And the details are signing and having a complete team that does everything to win a championship. Not, do they space the floor? Can they shoot three-pointers for us? He puts this team together based on those skill sets. And it's not about a well-rounded team for him. It's about, can they shoot? Now, James Jones was a shooter back in his day. I remember him even on the Suns in 2005. He was Joe Johnson's replacement. You know what he did? He stood in the corner and shot threes. Kind of sounds another like Kevin Durant, who did that exactly this season. Stand in the corner and shoot threes. You can hear him talking about how he was very unhappy with that type of setup. And it sounds like James Jones got exactly what he wanted. And when you have a new owner in Matt Ishbia who's willing to pay over $300 for this team, $120 million in the luxury tax now for this team, he gets what he gets. And that's what James Jones wanted to put together. He had the full ability to create anything he wanted. Because for the first time in his career, and probably in the Suns' history, we didn't have a true budget constraint. We have someone now who is willing to say, hey, I want to win for the Arizona fans. I don't care how much it costs. Just do it. And that is someone who we've been waiting for our entire lifetime as a franchise. Jerry Colangelo did a terrific job for 35 years with us. He truly is one of the Arizona sports legends, but he worked as a small business owner, and he did the best that he could. He built a great team in 2004 that Sarver bought. And at that time, Sarver did not put that team together. That was Jerry Colangelo and Brian Colangelo that did that. They signed Steve Nash. They got Quinn Richardson. They drafted Amari Stoudemire. They drafted Sean Marion. And they put together Mike D'Antoni. And that changed the NBA. Because you see what it is today. 3-point shooting. High-scoring games. Offense wins. Unfortunately, for the Suns, they never won a title with that kind of concept thinking. And you could say that some other teams have tried that approach, and maybe there's only been one that's successful, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Well, I'll tell you what, the Golden State Warriors have the greatest shooter in the history of the game. And they have actually the second greatest shooter in the history of the game in Klay Thompson. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. No one will ever have that kind of talent of shooting on an NBA roster in the history of the game again. It will never happen. So, if you're James Jones and you keep trying to get Bradley Beal and you spend money for him and you try to go get Grayson Allen in a trade for DeAndre Ayton, you think that that's going to help your team because you can have shooters around the floor, you can space the floor, and that's what really wins. Well, that's what doesn't win, because that's the definition of insanity. You keep trying to think that it's going to win, and you keep trying to think that if I get more shooters and space the floor, who's going to beat us? We're going to be damn near unbeatable. And that's what he says in a quote. Well, I'll tell you something, James Jones. You got swept 4-0 to a younger, better-built team. And the problem is that you don't even see it. You still think that your team could have won. I don't know how, but you think they could have won because of maybe injuries that you didn't have, or maybe it was a clear, defiant, move that you never had a point guard. However, technically you did get a point guard this season, and it was a 10-day contract that you signed to Isiah Thomas. I think there's a bigger story here that we're not letting lead on. Isiah Thomas is an over-the-hill 5'9" player who hasn't played in the league in over 2-3 seasons. Why he got Isiah Thomas, I'm not sure exactly why he did it, but I'll tell you the reasons. Maybe it's because there's no point guard on the roster, and he has to probably, interview with the owner and give reasons why he didn't do certain things maybe during the season. But I think it really was out of spite to the other Hall of Famer, Isiah Thomas, who was giving advice to Matt Ishbia right after James Jones made those trades for Grayson Allen, Yusuf Nurkic, and Bradley Beal. I think Matt Ishbia was looking to the real champion Isiah Thomas and asking him, do you think this team can win? I guarantee you Isiah Thomas gave him the advice that, let's see what happens. And if he doesn't, if he fails, then you can hire me. And the writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall right now. Everyone knows that James Jones is clearly inexperienced and clearly has no idea what he is doing, because when you look at his moves over the last 7 years as a general manager for this team, 7 years worth, you see the additional players that he gets, and it is players of the same skill set. And it is only one skill set. It's about shooting. I'll talk about the trade deadline moves. Let's talk about Terrence Ross last year. We got Terrence Ross. We got Landry Shamet at the draft right after the finals. Landry Shamet was not even a starting player on a team, but yet he was a bench player for the Brooklyn Nets. We lost in the NBA Finals, not because of shooting. We lost because we couldn't get a rebound against Giannis Antetokounmpo, and DeAndre Ayton had no true power forward. Partly, Daryl Sarge did get hurt in the finals, and that really hurt us. But we had 6-7 players who are all power forwards, like Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder, and Cameron Johnson, who clearly are not power forwards. So we completely decided to trade a player in Day'Ron Sharpe, who was a power forward center, could have helped us maybe in the finals, and could help us in the future, because that would give us an actual power forward. Now we have a player in Landry Shamet for 4 years, $48 million. I don't know why you need a player to back up Devin Booker for that much kind of money. He's going to play 10 minutes a night. You really think he's going to get and deserve $10 million a year to do 10 minutes of work every night? I don't think that's wise. Next year, he passes up on Tyrese Halliburton, who was the clear best shooter and, the best available player that 5 teams even passed on. I'm sitting there saying, he's a point guard. He's going to succeed Chris Paul. Just take him. He's the best available. Just take him. He drafts Jalen Smith. Now, Jalen Smith, I didn't think at the time was not bad of a pick because, well, he's a power forward. At least he can help us rebound the ball. But then the next season, he trades him to the Indiana Pacers for the previous guy that we had on our team against the Dallas Mavericks and lost in the semifinals, Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig was on that championship Western Conference Suns team that also did not help and yield a championship. So he's getting the same type of players. And you look at this past season, he gets Royce O'Neal at the deadline when we clearly need a point guard. We clearly need a power forward. He gets David Roddy, who's 6'4". Ish Wainwright, who's 6'5". Royce O'Neal, 6'6". They're all undersized forwards that are not that good at rebounders and clearly don't help your team do anything really that good. So you look at how he breaks down players, you look how he looks at players, you think that this guy, James Jones, is, just another bench role player who was on the championship team of LeBron James with the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what he was. And he wasn't a key contributor in those finals. I guarantee you. He rode the bench in every single playoff series for those teams. But yet he's a champion. That man is the one who's running our team. This guy literally thinks that three-point shooting and spacing the floor is what's going to win an NBA title. When you have an owner like Matt Ishbia who's willing to spend the money and you consistently keep putting out the same team and you just get more pricier with the players of the same skill set, this is how you build a fantasy basketball team. It's not how you build an NBA title contender. And we are not even close to an NBA title contender. We are not. You look at the Denver Nuggets, who are bigger than us. You look at the Los Angeles Lakers, who are bigger than us. You look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are bigger than us. Even the Oklahoma City Thunder are bigger than us. And even the Dallas Mavericks have become more defensive-oriented, who are just around complete stars that are kind of built similar to us with three-point shooting. But they now got bigger, stronger, defensive-minded players. So I don't know how you see this team trying to succeed with this man in charge. There's nothing more to do than to see that all these moves correspond to the same type of, shooting philosophy. And you do not have Steph Curry on your roster. So there's no reason to think that shooting is going to win an NBA title. He is the greatest shooter amongst the history of the NBA, and you don't have him. Kevin Durant is a very specific type of player, and he is mad at how he was used, and that goes to the roster construction that you put together. If I was him, I would have got a point guard. I would have got guys that actually set screens for these players instead of standing around the corner shooting threes, just like James Jones did as a player.